Have you ever found yourself playing Dungeons and Dragons, maybe looking at your wizard character sheet and just wondering, okay, how do I take this potentially fragile spellcaster and just unleash absolute elemental chaos on the bad guys? Like, how do you really push a wizard's firepower to the absolute maximum in D&D 5e, especially with some of the 5.5e updates floating around, and not immediately crumple when a goblin looks at you sideways?
That is the age-old question, isn't it? The wizard is kind of the definition of a glass cannon, immense, like world-shaking power, but yeah, often feeling like you're one stiff breeze away from needing to roll up a new character.
Exactly, and that balance, that whole challenge is what we're diving into today. This deep dive is inspired by a really cool guide from LitRPG Reads. They walk through crafting a high-damage wizard.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, and they really lean into that glass cannon identity, showing how you can optimize all that, immense potential power in D&D 5.5e, the 2024 version.
Right, it's about that careful art of maximizing your ability to just level the playing field while also building in just enough of a safety net so you can actually use that power more than once.
Turning the theoretical potential for obliteration into like a consistent strategic force. So our mission today is to take this guide, unpack the key insights, and understand the recipe for a wizard who can rain down devastation, maneuver that delicate dance of survival, and still have enough flavor and strategy to feel like a truly epic character.
Sounds good. Where do we start? The guide must have a first step.
It does. Okay, let's unpack this. The guide starts off by emphasizing how absolutely crucial your subclass choice is. Why is that the foundational decision for this kind of build?
Well, your subclass, your arcane tradition, it really dictates the core of your magical identity, and it gives you those mechanical advantages that kind of steer your play style, So if your goal is purely raw, unadulterated magical damage output, the source points directly to the School of Evocation.
Right, the pure damage school. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It gives you features that directly boost your spell power and safety, too. Sculpt spells, for instance.
Oh, huge, yeah.
It lets you drop massive area of effect spells like Fireball right on top of your party members without actually hurting them, which is massive for tactical positioning. You don't have to be afraid to unleash.
Exactly. And then Empowered Evocation lets you add your intelligence modifier to one damage roll of any wizard evocation spell you cast.
Yeah.
So there's more numbers stacking up. It's basically built for efficiently nuking groups.
Okay, so evocation is the straightforward blaster. What else does the guide highlight?
Then there's the School of War Magic. Now, this one approaches high damage from a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily about boosting the spell's raw damage number itself, but rather ensuring you can keep casting those powerful spells. Features like Arcane Deflection give you a reaction boost to AC or a save.
Which is useful for sure.
Yeah, and Durable Magic boosts your AC and saves while concentrating on a spell. These features significantly help with survivability and, critically, maintaining concentration on those key damage over time or control spells that really add up to overall encounter damage. It lets you be a bit bolder, maybe not hide quite so much.
Gotcha. Less hiding, more casting. And what about blade singing? That one always seems cool.
Blade singing. Yeah, this one is such a stylish fusion. The source highlights that it combines spellcasting with melee combat, specifically with swords.
Right.
Now, while maybe not the absolute peak for raw spell numbers compared to a dedicated evoker, the flexibility is immense. You can use melee cantrips like Green Flame Blade or Booming Blade for some initial damage.
Get in.
Exactly. Then retreat, use your extra movement, and then cast a full spell on your next turn. Plus, the Blade Song feature itself is key for survival. It gives you a bonus to AC, concentration saves, and mobility while it's active. It enables that slightly more daring, left hidden playstyle.
So a different kind of damage dealer, more agile.
Totally. What's interesting is how the guide acknowledges that high damage isn't just one path. It can be the pure blast of an evoker, the resilient persistence of a war mage, or that flexible hit-and-run style of a blade singer. And they also briefly touch on how other subclasses can contribute to total damage or maybe enable damage in different ways.
Like how?
Well, Chronergy for manipulating dice rolls to make sure spells land or enemies fail saves. Divination, doing similar things with portent dice. Abjuration's Arcane Ward, soaking up damage so you stay conscious and keep casting.
Right, survivability again.
Yeah. Or Necromancy, boosting necrotic spell damage and getting minions for distraction. Even Conjuration, Illusion, and Enchantment, providing indirect damage through battlefield control, deception, or maybe making enemies hit each other.
So the guide's point is the right subclass isn't just about the highest theoretical damage per round on paper.
Exactly.
But how that math fits your character's vibe and how you actually want to play. Are you the walking artillery strike? The resilient magic turret? Or the agile arcane duelist?
Precisely. It's about finding that sweet spot between mechanics and feel.
Okay, so once you've decided on that core identity, how do you fill your spellbook? The guide goes into serious detail here, I imagine.
Oh yeah. It's not just about packing every spell that makes things go boom, though. The source emphasizes a balance of, splashy attacks and tactical reliability. Especially in 5.5e, where optimizing your resources feels even more key.
Spell slots are precious ammo.
Totally. Every preparation slot matters. Versatility is your friend. The guide points out that area of effect AoE spells are essential for clearing groups. These are your bread and butter for magical crowd control.
Like Fireball. Everyone knows Fireball.
Absolutely. Think Fireball in the mid-game, or the legendary Meteor Swarm for those high-level battlefield-defining moments. But you also absolutely need powerful single-target spells.
For the big bads.
Right, for when there's one big monster that needs to go down right now. Spells like Disintegrate or Finger of Death are called out as key damage spikes against bosses. It's about having the right tool ready for whatever threat you face.
Makes sense. So AoE for crowds, big single target for bosses. What else is key?
Beyond just what this spell does, the source stresses two crucial things: optimizing your spell save DC and paying attention to the action economy.
The DC. Yeah, that's huge.
It really is. Your spell save DC is the number enemies need to roll on their saving throw to resist or have the effects of your spell. If your DC is low, your amazing spells are just getting shrugged off, and your damage potential plummets. Maximizing it means your spells land more often, dealing full damage.
And action economy.
That's just about how many effective things you can do in a turn. Picking spells that use your actions, bonus actions, maybe even reactions efficiently is key.
Got it. And damage types.
Oh, absolutely vital. Don't just specialize in fire if half the monsters you fight are resistant or immune. Having a mix of elements, fire, cold, lightning, acid, force, psychic, necrotic, radiant, means you always have something that works.
Good point. So what specific spells does the guide call out as essential?
It lists a ton across different levels, explaining their niche. Magic Missile is called out as reliable damage that never misses, great for finishing off low HP enemies without wasting a bigger slot.
Always useful.
Scorching Ray gives you multiple beams you can focus fire or split up. Fireball, well, it's the classic. Huge area, reliable damage, good range. Lightning Bolt is perfect for corridors or lining up multiple enemies.
Yeah, situational but powerful.
Ice Storm has a big area, does bludgeoning and cold, plus difficult terrain. Synaptic Static is great psychic damage, which is rarely resisted, and it debuffs enemy saves and attacks. Super useful.
That debuff sounds nice. What about higher levels?
Yeah, for higher levels you get into things like Wall of Fire for persistent area denial and damage.
Yeah.
Vitriolic Sphere for acid damage that might bypass resistances, sticks around too. Disintegrate for massive single target force damage.
Vaporizes things.
Exactly. Chain Lightning for hitting multiple targets in a group. Delayed Blast Fireball for timing huge explosions. Finger of Death for big necrotic damage, plus it makes a zombie if it kills someone.
Ooh, thematic.
Sunburst for a huge radiant AoE that also blinds. Prismatic Spray for just chaotic multi-element fun. Bit random though. Horrid Wilting is good against plants or water elementals, necrotic AoE. And of course the legendary Meteor Swarm at level 9. Just ridiculous damage.
The ultimate boom.
Pretty much. But the guide also wisely reminds us, even in a high damage build, you need key utility spells.
Right. Can't just be all offense?
Nope. Counterspell to protect your party or your own concentration. Misty Step for crucial repositioning, getting out of trouble. Maybe Hold Monster to lock down a big threat so everyone can wail on it. Being adaptable means you live longer to cast more damage spells.
Good point. Okay, so that covers spells. Stepping back from the spells themselves, the guide then dives into the raw numbers and abilities, your stats and feats, right?
Yep. And intelligence is absolutely the king here. There's really no getting around it.
Spell save DC, attack bonus.
How many spells you can prepare all flows from intelligence. The source makes it crystal clear. Maximize this first, always. Get it as high as you can.
Okay, int first. What's next?
After intelligence, the guide recommends prioritizing constitution. Mostly for concentration checks, because losing concentration on a big damage spell instantly cuts your output, and also for hit points.
A wizard who's unconscious deals 0 damage?
Exactly. Then dexterity is important for initiative, so you can act early in combat, maybe drop that big spell before the enemies scatter, and also for your armor class if you aren't wearing armor.
Int, then con, then dex. Got it. What about feats? They can really change a build.
Oh yeah. Feats are presented as key ways to dramatically change your wizard's capabilities. They kind of twist the rules and provide significant boosts. Elemental Adept is highlighted as pretty essential for a damage focus.
Why is that?
It lets you ignore resistance to a chosen damage type, like fire, if you love fireball, and you get to reroll any ones you roll on damage dice for spells of that type. That's a direct, reliable damage boost.
Nice. What else? Warcaster.
Warcaster, definitely. Advantage on concentration saves is huge, like we said, and it lets you cast a spell as a reaction, instead of just making an opportunity attack. Potential for more damage output, or maybe a clutch control spell.
Cool. Spell Sniper.
Spell Sniper doubles the range of your spell attacks, lets them ignore 1/2 and 3/4 cover, and grants an extra attack cantrip. Great for tactical flexibility. Improved accuracy means more spells hit.
More range, hitting behind cover.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Resilient Constitution is another strong contender. Gives you proficiency in Constitution saves and bumps your con score, making those concentration checks much more reliable.
Stacking up those concentration bonuses.
Yep. Alert gives you a +5 bonus to initiative and prevents you from being surprised. Going first lets you potentially get a crucial spell off before the enemy even moves. Big advantage.
Initiative is always good. Any others worth mentioning? Other useful ones mentioned include lucky for re-rolling key failures, tough for just more hit points, mobile for escaping sticky situations after casting without provoking opportunity attacks. Metamagic Adept from Tasha's Cauldron, following those 5.5e trends, lets you grab a couple of metamagic options like Subtle Spell or Empowered Spell.
Add some sorcerer flavor.
Kind of, yeah. Fey Touch gives you Misty Step for free and another divination or enchantment spell. Telekinetic gives you a bonus action shove or pull, good for battlefield control or getting allies out of grapples. And maybe Defensive Duelist if you're really leaning into that Bladesinger style, using your reaction to boost AC and melee.
So lots of options. The clear theme here seems to be balancing offense with defense just enough to stay in the fight.
Exactly. The guide isn't advocating for being purely fragile. It's about enabling yourself to cast through the chaos. Smart feat choices are often about maintaining that ability to keep casting spells.
Okay, let's connect this to the gear you find or acquire. Beyond your personal abilities, magic items are presented as huge amplifiers, right?
Absolutely. Magic items are your toolkit extensions, they're your safety net sometimes, and they definitely augment your power, survivability, and versatility. Staves and wands are the iconic tools, your magical baseball bats and laser pointers.
Yeah. Right.
A Wand of the War Mage or a Staff of Power can significantly boost your spell attack rolls or your spell save DC. That means your spells are more accurate and harder to resist. Huge boost.
More reliable damage.
Yep. And they often provide charge-based spellcasting, letting you conserve your limited spell slots for when you really need them. Robes, like the Robe of the Archmagi, offer major boosts to your spell DC and defenses too. Very powerful late game.
So what are some examples the guide gives, maybe at different tiers of play?
Sure. Early to mid-tier items might be like a Wand of the War Mage, +1, +2, or +3. A Staff of Fire that lets you cast Fireball or Burning Hands using charges. Maybe a Wand of Fireballs for just more Fireball.
Never have too many fireballs.
Apparently not. A Pearl of Power to recover a spell slot once per day is always useful. Or even an Amulet of Health to set your Constitution to 19. That's a massive survivability boost, especially early on.
Yeah, bump and con is huge. Mid-tier.
Mid-tier includes things like an Ion Stone of Mastery, which raises your proficiency bonus just for things like attacks and saves and DCs. Or maybe a Spellguard Shield for Bladesingers wanting more magic resistance.
And late game, the really powerful stuff.
Late-tier legendary items are things like the Staff of Power we mentioned, or the Robe of the Archmagi for huge all-around boosts. And the Holy Grail is maybe a Tome of Clear Thought for a permanent intelligence increase.
Permanent int boost. Yes, please.
Right. What's neat is the suggestion to make the pursuit of these items part of your character's story. Questing for that specific staff or trading favors for a valuable tome. It weaves the mechanics into the narrative, makes the power gain feel earned and significant.
Totally. Let the hunt for that perfect item drive an adventure or two. Now, the guide makes it clear. Even with the best build and gear, you need to know how to use it. Tactics are just as important as the spells themselves.
100%. Tactics, battlefield awareness, positioning, timing, they are absolutely vital in 5.5e combat, just like in 5e. Initiative isn't just about who goes first.
Right. It sets the tone.
Yeah, it's your chance to control the opening moments, maybe drop a battlefield control spell, a debuff, or immediately reposition yourself to safety before things get hairy.
And positioning. Stay in the back.
Mostly, yeah. Movement and cover are your first lines of defense. The source emphasizes using the terrain pillars, walls, high ground to your advantage. Staying out of line of sight, Ducking behind full cover or using spells like Fly to gain elevation makes you much harder to target. It keeps you alive to keep casting those big spells.
Don't stand in the open. Got it.
Spell timing is also crucial. Waiting for enemies to cluster up before dropping that fireball maximizes its impact. Sometimes readying an action to cast a spell when a specific condition is met, like when an enemy steps into a certain area, can be incredibly effective.
Tactical waiting. And party coordination.
Oh, the guide really highlights this. Your wizard is incredibly powerful, yes, but other characters can enable you to be even more powerful. It's all about synergy.
How so?
Let the tanks draw aggro and hold enemies down. Let the controllers bunch enemies together for your AoEs. Let the buffers and debuffers soften targets up or boost your saves. Communication is key here, obviously, to avoid friendly fire with those big AoEs and to set up devastating combos.
Like the fighter holds them, you blast them.
Exactly. It's always about thinking at least one turn ahead. It's not just, how do I deal damage now? But how do I position and prepare so I can deal maximum damage on the next turn and the turn after that?
Thinking ahead, what specific tactics does the guide list?
A ton of them. Always seeking cover. Using Fly for strategic advantage. Readying actions for ambushes or specific triggers. Targeting clusters for maximum AoE value. Using your action and bonus action efficiently, like maybe casting Crown of Stars as a bonus action, and then Fireball as your main action.
Double spell goodness.
Sometimes. Coordinating with party members who can grapple or control movement. Using illusions or darkness to reposition safely. Always having an escape plan like Misty Step or Dimension Door ready.
Essential escape tools.
Debuffing enemies before you blast them makes your spells land more often or hit harder. Attacking from the back ranks is usually safest. Trying to control initiative is a huge advantage. Using area denial spells like Wall of Fire on choke points can severely hamper enemies and deal damage over time.
Smart use of the battlefield.
Knowing when to use your high-level spells, usually for bosses or game-changing moments, versus when to conserve resources with cantrips is vital resource management. And always watching enemy patterns to predict their moves.
Lots to keep track of.
Definitely. The guide's conclusion on this is spot on. Tactical thinking and smart movement, both literally with your feet and strategically with your mind, are just as crucial for maximizing your effective damage as your spell selection. You gotta master both the spells and the dance of combat.
The dance of combat. I like that. And speaking of resources, the guide really drives home the point about managing your spell slots and daily preparation, right? That careful calculus.
Yeah, it's a careful calculus of burning bright versus holding back just enough. Pacing is everything in a long adventuring day or a whole campaign. You can't just go Nova in the first fight.
Or you'll have nothing left for the boss.
Exactly. You need a spread of options, reliable cantrips like Firebolt for at-will damage when you need to conserve resources, flexible mid-level spells for clearing groups or dealing with multiple moderate threats, and then those absolute high-level nukes for pivotal moments. Learning when to unleash that meteor swarm versus when to just sling a firebolt is the mark of an experienced wizard.
So tailor your prep.
Absolutely. Your daily spell preparation should take into account what you expect to face. If you know you're going into a dungeon full of fire-resistant creatures, maybe swap out Fireball for Lightning Bolt or Vitriolic Sphere or Synaptic Static. Be flexible.
Good advice. What about scrolls and wands?
Oh yeah, scrolls and wands are highlighted as great supplemental damage or utility tools, especially useful for when your main well of spell slots is running low, or for spells you don't want to prepare every day but might need occasionally. Low-cost insurance? Kinda.
Makes sense. The guide shows how damage scales too, right?
Yeah, it illustrates the scaling progression with examples, showing how your go-to damage options evolve, like cantrips, Firebolt for reliability, level 1, Magic Missile, maybe Chromatic Ward, level 2, the Scorching Ray or Shatter, level 3, Fireball or Lightning Bolt, level 4, Vitriolic Sphere or Wall of Fire, level 5, Cone of Cold or Synaptic Static, level 6, Disintegrate or Chain Lightning. And then 7th level and up, you get into the really big hitters like Finger of Death, Sunburst, and eventually Meteor Swarm.
A clear progression of power.
Exactly. And managing those resources effectively is the difference between a wizard who becomes a legend in the campaign and one who, fizzles out after the first fight and is mostly known for hiding.
Huh. Nobody wants to be the wizard known for hiding. Okay, finally, the source brings it all together by talking about team synergy and party composition. This seems critical.
Absolutely necessary. Your amazing damage spells are like, well, they're fireworks when you're alone. Impressive, but maybe not game-changing. But they become a symphony of destruction when you're working effectively with a team.
A symphony of destruction. Nice.
Wizards shine brightest when the party functions as a well-oiled machine. The difference isn't just about stacking individual numbers, it's about how everyone enables each other. Different roles provide invaluable support for a damage wizard.
Like the tank holding them still?
Exactly. Tanks and melee characters can lock down enemies so they can't reach you, and maybe even cluster them up nicely. Controllers can restrict enemy movement, bunch them up perfectly for your AoE spells. Buffers and debuffers can make enemies easier to hit, weaken their saves against your spells, or even boost your own capabilities.
So the party needs to understand the wizard's needs too.
Ideally, yeah. The guide suggests an ideal party understands this and actively works to set you up. Think of a bard using bardic inspiration on an enemy's saving throw right before you hit them with Disintegrate.
Ooh, that's nasty.
Or a martial character grappling a key target so you can just unleash guaranteed single-target damage without worrying about them dodging. Communication is called out again as absolutely crucial.
Talking about targets, positioning.
Yeah, who's targeting what, where people are moving, and especially when you plan to drop that big AoE to avoid accidentally incinerating the rogue, it's key to maximizing overall party effectiveness, which just means enemies go down faster.
Makes sense. Any specific team strategies mentioned?
Lots of examples. Letting tanks pin enemies for your AoE hits. Grapplers or immobilizers holding targets still for single-target blasts. Bardic inspiration helping your spells land by affecting enemy saves, coordinating flanking or positioning to line up your line or cone spells perfectly.
Clerics helping out.
Yeah, clerics or other casters using debuffs like Bane or Fairy Fire to make enemies easier to hit or fail saves. Controllers funneling enemies into your kill zones. Maybe druids using Entangle or Spike Growth as setups for your damage spells.
Combining effects. Cool.
Paladins might help by removing resistances with certain abilities or blocking an enemy's escape. Sorcerers could use meta magic like Twin Spell or Empowered Spell to enhance your efforts or their own alongside yours. Artificers providing buffs or temporary HP for survivability.
So everyone plays a part.
Everyone plays a part. And constant communication is the glue. Avoiding friendly fire, timing spells with party debuffs, marking priority targets so everyone's focus is fire, letting fighters handle threats that break through the front line, using party mobility options to get everyone, including you, into the best position.
That whole section really emphasizes that teamwork doesn't just add numbers, it creates those legendary moments, doesn't it?
Totally. True power, especially for a character often seen as fragile like the wizard, is rarely achieved in isolation. It's a team game.
Okay, so you've got the subclass, the spells, the stats, the feats, the gear, the tactics, the resource awareness, and the team strategy. How does the guide wrap all this up? What's the final takeaway?
The guide's final thoughts really bring it home. The high damage wizard in 5.5e is undeniably fragile, but equally fearsome. Achieving that potential isn't just about picking the right spells. It demands intelligent selection across the board, subclass feats, items plus sharp positioning, resourceful pacing of your power, and crucially, effective teamwork.
It's definitely not just about rolling the highest damage dice. It's a strategic balance.
Exactly. The journey of playing this kind of wizard is presented as an evolution, one that really rewards creativity, adaptability on the fly, and tactical finesse. It's about learning the flow of combat and knowing precisely when to hold back and when to just unleash absolute devastation.
And have fun with it.
Yeah, and importantly, the guide reminds us to put roleplay behind the numbers. Give that hunger for power a story. Turn the statistics and mechanics into the legend of your character. Every successful fireball, every critical disintegrate hit becomes a moment etched into the campaign's history. Test what works, tweak your approach, refine your build D&D rewards, that kind of experimentation.
Love it. Make the numbers mean something.
Ultimately, the guide leaves us with this idea. The most dazzling victories, the ones that make your character memorable, often come with a little bit of danger and a whole lot of style. Your magic has the potential to shape worlds, so why not let your legend burn as brightly as possible? The battlefield really is yours to command.
A powerful build for sure, demanding both brains and bravery. That was a great breakdown.
It's a cool approach to playing a wizard, definitely leans into the power fantasy.
And a big shout out to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello, a fine fellow indeed, for providing the inspiration for this deep dive. It's a fantastic guide for anyone looking to optimize their wizard's impact at the table. Really useful stuff.
Agreed. Good resource.
So we'd love to hear from you listening. What are your favorite wizard building tips? Do you have any epic gaming stories of a wizard pulling off an incredible high damage play, maybe a perfectly timed spell that saved the day?
Yeah, share your favorite damage dealing moments with the community. We always love hearing those stories.